What's up, guys? So we're back checking out Squadron 42. In this video, we're just being what we're gonna do is basically just kind of break down the video and talk about some aspects and certain things about it. And that's basically what we're gonna be doing for this video, is just kind of do a little bit of a breakdown and just some things that I think are interesting or whatnot. And I mean, honestly, if we kind of just let it play and scoot it back a little bit, obviously the visuals just from right here at looking at the cockpit of the ship, you can definitely see that there is a lot of detail on the ship, where you can see all of the studs and all of the paneling. As well as, like, if you even look into the cockpit itself, like the pilot seat is pretty detailed, at least from just the glimpse that you can see about it. As well as it having all of the controls and the panels for all of the ships, basically like all of the inner workings of the ship, all on the control panel. Being that since it is a fighter variant type of ship, as far as I can tell, it's should be just like a one-man piloted fighter, and there shouldn't be anything going on in the back as far as I know. But letting it play a little bit, and you can see how the scale is quite massive. As you can see, when the fighters flew by the asteroid, how small they were in comparison. And just let it roll. And the scale gets more pronounced when we get introduced to this. So over here, honestly, seeing as how in the previous video we did see that how intricate and just how deeply detailed these ships are from the interior, even from just the outside, that you can honestly think that the internals of all these ships could basically be a separate map, if you could think of it that way, where it's just a small scale map, kind of just in the realm of this is the play space for this particular ship. It's designed this way for various reasons, and the layout is specifically because this is how this works and things like that. But again, you can see the scale is quite large. Even the planet itself, as far as I remember from playing the multiplayer, the planets themselves, you can just directly, like, for instance, these pilots right here for the fighters, you could just have them go to the planet's surface and actually get to the planet, where in the video we did see that there is a city, and you could actually go there, and you can traverse this entire planet.
Reposition for heading 038. Copy that. Adjusting heading now. Reaper Squadron. Thanks for joining us. What's your sit rep? In position, holding now. Understand. Any reinforcement?
But moving on to kind of like the mess hall, basically. All of this, yes, is single player, but you can think of this as also giving a bit of a showcase of what multiplayer will be once a lot of these larger ships are introduced, and then you have the orgs, basically the clans that are in the game, that this is what they could be dealing with when they do like their own personal events, or they're coming into conflict with other orgs or other clans, if you want to call them that way, where they will have this confrontation when you then pit two organizations against each other, and you have these numerous amounts of people that aren't AI or NPCs, if you want to call them by a more, I guess, game standard. But you could technically replace all of these people that are in the shot with actual people playing the game, and that just pronounces like how big the scale of the game is and how in depth they want to make the game, and how just how much they want the player base to be able to interact with each other, to have an impact on the world itself. And I haven't done it, but I might later, where there was a showcase of certain features coming into Star Citizen when CitizenCon was coming around, where they were talking about certain things dealing with basically the player economy and how the players could actually affect how whatever they make or manufacture, basically, whether that be guns, armor, ships, that they will have a presence and an impact into the economy of the Star Citizen universe. And honestly, that just gets people more involved, and there's that sense of connection to the game, because then you're making these things that will be used in the game, and you might come across someone that could potentially have bought one of your things, whether that be armor, guns, a ship. You could find these things out in the world that other people have purchased, and you could meet, interact with these people, and it just is mind-blowing to get to that point, right?
We've got to send them through, right? We've been getting tuned up for weeks.
It's this Polo Initiative horse shit.
There have been battles. There have been losses. Each and every one.
And even things like this, again, the orgs. Over here, you can see that it's the bridge of the ship of basically the command of the fleet. And right here, you could kind of just see it as like the captain of the fleet, or the admiral, basically, over here. Could be a player, as well as all these other people that are in the shot are all potential players that are then going to be getting into an event that's happening in Star Citizen, an event that they made, or just some org confrontation where they're trying to fight over territory, resources, and it's just, it's amazing. Like, the gaming industry has really gotten quite far from how it used to be to now, and it's possible to make these types of universes and to make these worlds as fleshed out as they could be. And so it's just very awe-inspiring, I guess you could think of it. And, I mean, even the enemies right here, this is just one set of the enemies that you could come across within Star Citizen. Whether that be in the persistent universe, I don't know if they'll ever be introduced into it. Because at the moment, for multiplayer for the persistent universe, there, as far as I know and have seen, there's only human enemy NPCs that you would come across. You could come across lore or backstory to other aliens and whatnot through the multiplayer, but you wouldn't necessarily see them. So at the moment, you would actually only see these guys within Squadron 42, but it would be quite exciting to see them within the persistent universe, as well as some of the other alien races that CIG introduces through the encyclopedia, where they have all the lore or backstory for certain planets, conflicts, races, manufacturers, and a whole lot of other things. But it would be nice to see them potentially come into the Persistent Universe for the multiplayer, which might be possible later down the line, which is very hopeful. And so I'm trying to just like see if we can get a good shot. Like, see, some of this stuff would be pretty cool. As well, when you're doing like orc battles or anything like that, you can see the potentially if it would work to do this. I don't know if they have made it where you can do this or are planning to, but this is just a speculation on my part, where you could have like the fleet from the org represented right here, obviously within the blue, and then you have the enemy organization or just random other players that aren't a part of an enemy org or your org, and they can just show up on the map basically that's over here, which honestly would be pretty cool. But kind of just seeing to like see this type of stuff going on in the Persistent Universe for when it really gets to that point, for these large battles and for these organizations to actually have these large confrontations, would be very interesting and very cool to see, where there's actually a impactful event happening that could shift the economy and the power base within the Persistent Universe because of these two organizations fighting. So it would be very interesting to see how all of that would play out. Especially when CIG is trying to put emphasis on that the players will have an impact within the universe. So that gives a lot of ideas to what type of impact are we going to have. So far they have let us know that there will be an impact for the economy, which on that point is very interesting. And so with that in mind, I would also wonder the impact of the, I guess you could say, the power that these organizations have.
Regarding Bishop here, make me proud.
Would the power that they have be displaced after a defeat? Or would there be some reason why a organization's power is on the rise? It's potentially possible between the whole economy. It could play a major factor in that type of thing happening.
Further, Captain. I want those dual ships fried and crispy. Copy? Aye, Captain. Copy that.
On it, sir.
Cinematic gunners, it's us or them.
We can just scrub on through to see if we can find another point to talk about. There is some there's quite a number of things that aren't interesting to talk about, but obviously this is just all mostly combat based breakdown talk at the moment, so there's not too much talking about the economy, whether it's related to more so on the organization against organization struggle, but some people are more into the economy play, and obviously that will work to their benefit, just because then it gives them a certain amount of power within the universe, because they might be the only manufacturer that has a good hold on this type of product. And so then the organizations are going to pay a hefty price to want to get this type of item from them. But again, getting into the interior is really lovely and very atmospheric, really pulls you in. The lighting's great, the details are great. The whole interaction with certain things within the world is also really great. And also, just certain things like this, where if we roll it back a tiny bit and just play it through, all of this destruction that we see within this hallway, right here with the flames, the smoke, the piping all broken, the doors are busted. Even the little pack over here that we see, where you can get a med pen or medical pen to heal the character that is in the shot that's playing right now, is busted. It has an error. You have to break it open to get it. It's very thought out and it's very detailed. It's a very nice looking game. And the gameplay that is shown is very smooth, which is also very nice. And from what I recall, it's also that they are starting to introduce a lot of these features where there's the internal destruction of the ship. And so far as I remember, they're starting to introduce kind of where the ships can become listless, where the basically the power to the ship is basically lost connection. The systems within the ship are down, and so you're kind of just listing off into space, not being able to really do anything. As well as them now introducing basically fire effects and fire corrosion that happens within the ship, and as the fire spreads, you would need to use a fire extinguisher, which we do see later on this video from the last video I made, where we did watch the entirety of this. We did see some of the fire suppression and the fire spreading and being made from a internal damage that basically I want to say the engine room had some damage done to it, which will then have it where the damage is spreading and the fire is there. You're gonna have to fix it with the fire extinguisher that is potentially right next to you. But seeing all of this, again, at some point we will be seeing all of this within the Prison universe, which is the multiplayer for Star Citizen, which I'm really excited to take part in, because it's great and all where the ships kind of just explode and that's the end of it, but having a chance of I guess you could say like a lifeline to try to fix the ship as best as you can to at least get it working, where you can maybe potentially pull out something where you can save your life, is really alluring, because it does immerse you into the game. It brings you in, it gets you invested in saving the ship, where then you can grow an attachment to the ship because it's been through all these conflicts. You've repaired it, you've done all these upgrades to it to fix it up and make sure it's the best that it can be. He gives a lot to desire for when the ship gets damaged, you, in all of your capacity and whatever tools you have on you, you can fix the ship, you can make it work again, and you can potentially save your life. And things like this too, with the escape pods. I've never tried, as far as I remember when I have played, to any of the ships that do have escape pods. I haven't tried them, but I'm wanting to say that the escape pods at the moment don't actually work. Let me know if I'm wrong on that, because I honestly don't remember, and I as I stated before, I haven't tried the escape pods, even if they do work. But if I'm misremembering that and they do work or anything like that, let me know. And even this, the new rework of the interface and the map is also really good. Just because now there is quite a detailed map, to be honest. It's one of the better maps and one of the more cleaner interfaces that I have seen in recent games.
All personnel evacuate ship.
But I gotta say, like, the atmosphere, just from the prologue that we watched, and from what we're watching right now, the atmosphere is just so good. Even the cinematics is just, it pulls you in. Like, it's really good. They've done a very, very good job with getting the people who play the game, or even if you watch it, to really get immersed into the atmosphere and in the world that they've built. There's honestly not too much to complain about. If I do recall, though, in the beginning, if I can kind of scrub through and see if I can find it. I'm pretty sure it's within his speech when he's talking. We'll take a quick look over here.
One last battle.
There was one thing I wanted to note when we did watch this, but I haven't really said anything about it. Just because it's a very, like, minor thing that could be fixed really quickly. Which is this right here. So, if we... let's see. If we play this back fairly slowly, we can see right here on this frame the character's facial, basically his face changes. So we have this right here, and then honestly he just changes right there, right? So that's kind of like the only thing I will have to say about it. That's like the only like negative thing I have to say about it, really.
All right.
There's nothing else to really say, because everything else was basically really good. That was the only problem I could really find within this prologue. But again, it's like a very minor thing. I'm sure they would fix it, even if people wouldn't mention it, just because honestly they want to make it as great of a game, a universe as possible, and they have the skills and the capabilities to do it in the right way to make a game as good as it can be. And I mean, like, the combat itself is also very smooth from what I see. The only thing I will have to say about the combat, though, is kind of just like this one factor that you can see from this confrontation that's coming up is right here, which is basically there's nothing wrong with the combat really, but it's just kind of me nitpicking, where the Vandal, which is this alien race, are basically rushing the player, which you can see here, and then you can also see it at the final fight that him and the captain of the ship have, where a lot of the Vandal do rush him. There's not like a lot of long-range combat with him, aside from the player having it. And with that in mind, when they do rush him, it kind of puts them in this, I don't know, kind of like a weird state. You can, not so much this fight, because this is kind of like an introductory to them. But there is a, there is something else to note about the combat later. But here we can see that the ship takes like a hit from outside from an enemy ship, damage the engines or reactors or whatever they are, gets damaged. There's the fire and it's spreading, right? So then you have to get a fire extinguisher. This will help to sustain the damage to a more minimal level, giving you the chance to repair the ship and fix it up, right? It gives it a chance to get back into a working order. All of this, really great. I love this. It gives more attachment to the ship that you're on. And it's not just like a throwaway. You want to save the ship. This is the ship that you basically have your livelihood of traversing the world and the universe, basically. And, I mean, honestly, you're not going to want the ship that you're on to explode, right? So it gives it more, what I want to say. Something similar to attachment, but, attachment, yes, but, it also gives it, novelty, I guess, because the ship could survive through these battles, potentially. This part right here is also pretty interesting, which is the 0G activity that can happen within Star Citizen. Within Star Citizen. Which is also interesting in its own right, just because I think Star Citizen, CIG, have done a very good job with 0G. And there's other games that try to do it, but in my perspective, I honestly think CIG did a very good job representing how 0G is, and how you can interact with it in a playable state within a video game. And this gives a lot of potential for many different things, which one of them could be potentially boarding a ship if we speed up a little bit. Might back up a tiny bit. Where is it? I remember it's in here somewhere. Should be up here, I think. So, right here, it shows that it is possible to basically shoot yourself to this ship right here that's in view, which is called the Hammerhead. And it shows that it should be possible for you to shoot yourself over and to basically be in this 0G state to fly over and basically board the Hammerhead. Obviously, that wouldn't necessarily work because of the ship moving, and so he would, if he were to shoot himself over, he would miss it just because the ship is going by and it's not slowing down. But it shows that there's a potential to do this in the game, and you can shoot yourself over to another ship when you're in space in 0G. And if we fast forward a tiny bit to get through all of this, we can see the panel over here that was on the left, this over here, where this gives us a little sneak peek at engineering, which was also going to be introduced into the game, where the player is restoring gravity and a atmosphere basically to the ship, so he's able to breathe again, breathe in some oxygen, and not have to breathe through the oxygen that his suit has in it. And it makes basically this part of the ship in working order again, and it's not like on this lockdown, we'll say.
One left. Follow me. Thrusters change. Take a seat.
This right here was also recently introduced, which is this track basically, where a lot of the larger ships will have this as a kind of indicator for the flight path that they'll have when they're flying through space, just because since they are so large, they're more cumbersome to control, right? So this kind of acts as like a guidepost to indicate the path that they'll be taking, which is very good, because honestly, it gives a
Good.
I guess like a helping hand for people who are flying these large ships. And so we can fast forward it one more time. We're kind of at the end of it, and kind of at the end of what I wanted to talk about. This too right here is kind of indicating a lot of things that will later be in Star Citizen, which will be boarding actions. For at the moment, as far as I recall, if you were to board a ship, it's basically you just floating with the EVA suit and basically using the laser cutter or a gun to shoot or cut open a door. But they are going to be starting to introduce specialized ships where you are going to be able to use these ships to conduct a boarding action on another ship. So that'll be interesting when those get into play.
Company. To hold them up. Life support. Disabling safeties up.
So we'll get to the point on the combat that I was mentioning earlier on. So we can see right here, these two, this one in particular, did rush him and was gonna get into the stabbing animation. And you can see this guy right here too. He was the second one that came around when the other one was gonna stab him when he was on the floor. That guy also rushed him and did not have any wherewithal to just shoot at him. And you can see this one as well, or the one that came up behind him on the left side. It just rushed him as well. It kind of seems like this is the it kind of gets a little messed up later on the ending fight, but you can see that the tactic, it might just be because that the player is so close to the entry point where the enemies are coming from, which is why they're rushing him, because you can also see that the one that just came up to him did shoot at him, so it might just be a distance thing. But you can kind of see that the rushing and the charging at the player kind of gets a little scuffed up and bugged up when it gets a little overwhelming like this. Which, that's kind of my only qualm with the combat, at least for the Vandal that were introduced in this. because fighting other human enemies is honestly not as I don't want to say broken, because they're not broken. It might just be that it's a distance thing, like I mentioned before, where the player in this video is too close to the entry where the enemies are spawning. And so then the enemies are registering that the player is close to them, so they're going to rush him, which is why they're taking that action, and how so many of them are acting that way is just because he's probably a distance problem, and he's so close to the spawn point that they're just registering within the code that since he's this far away, we're going to rush him and just pin him to the floor and kill him. Whereas he was further back, and he was within this space when the one that we just saw a little bit ago did shoot at him. Now, yes, he did start rushing him when he came up closer, when he was coming up the stairs, but when he was a certain distance away, he did shoot at him. So it probably is just that the coding within the NPCs themselves is that, for the aliens at least, is that since the player is this close, we're going to charge at him and try to pin him to the floor. As opposed to, since he's too far away, we'll shoot at him. So it probably is just a distance thing that we are encountering this problem, but you can kind of see from how it was playing out at this endpoint, how it kind of gets a little overwhelming and kind of chaotic. But that's kind of like my only other thing that I'm nitpicking. It's not really a problem. You can kind of just forget about it, really. It's not too much of a problem. It's not like it needs to be fixed in any way. But that's kind of just all I had to talk about. And overall, the prologue that got revealed is very nice. The gameplay is very smooth. The atmosphere is very rich. And it does, at least for me, pull myself into the universe. And I can't wait to honestly get my hands on this and play it when it comes out in 2026. So when it does come out, I did say on the previous video I would be playing this on the channel, and I hope you guys will come along for the ride. And so with that, if you guys did enjoy, leave a like, share it, subscribe. Again, it helps me out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.